Hello guys, and welcome to another hobby project video. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for quite a while, as it seems that a lot of people in the hobby have a very similar problem. That problem being backlog, aka pile of shame, aka pile of opportunity. Over the course of the past 2 years, and especially during the pandemic, I have found that I have accumulated a lot of miniatures. During the time that we were all stuck indoors, I purchased a ton of Warhammer, as I had lots of grand ideas and felt that I could pass the time by working on new projects. The problem is, I didn't. Though I had what seemed like all the time in the world to spend on my miniatures in lockdown, I didn't have the inspiration or motivation. Another important aspect of the hobby that I was lacking was being able to talk to my friends about the projects that I was working on. What ended up happening was me purchasing new releases and never getting around to using them, like some sort of awful retail therapy. It's come to a point where I look at the overwhelmingly large pile of Warhammer branded boxes and think to myself, I should do something about that. Today is that day. Well, where I make a start at least. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to approach the mammoth task before me, and as with any other project I do, I never really had a plan. In the end, it just boiled down to what I was in the mood to build. I started off with a large quantity of Death Guard sprues that I purchased second-hand about a year ago. These miniatures were from the Warhammer Conquest collection, and some of them from Space Marine Heroes 3. These minis were really nice to build, but offer very little in terms of posing or customization. I can't complain too much though, as with the amount I have to build, I can't afford to spend too much time customizing every other miniature. Another reason I decided to start this project was because I couldn't stop thinking, when will I get all these done? And with imminent future releases inbound, the backlog would just continue to grow. Preferably, I'd like to get all these miniatures done before I'm in my 70s. Anyway, after the Death Guard were complete, I moved on to assembling some odd sprues of Blackstone Fortress minions that I'm still not really sure what I want to do with yet. I think I picked these up mainly for the Traitor Guard, as Blackstone Fortress was the first set you could get them in. From that, I continued on to a Necromunda Redemptionist gang, and a whole lot of metal and resin blister packs. I've been a big fan of the relaunch of Necromunda and love the new miniatures that are being produced. This made putting the Redemptionist together a blast. One thing I'm quite happy with is the fact I thought ahead and purchased a little plastic bits box to keep all the extra pieces from the kits together in one place. Go me! This project, if you can call it that, has taken up most of my hobbying time for the past 2 weeks. It's easy for me to underestimate how long the assembly process takes. As I'm quite slow at most aspects of this hobby, it ended up taking quite a lot of time. Even though it was time consuming, it was highly satisfying to see another unit added to the collection and another sprue and box added to the bin. It's quite interesting to work with kits that have come out during different stages of Games Workshop's lifespan. The older metal kits and the newer plastic ones are both a joy to work with, but the same cannot be said for the resin ones. I did not enjoy the cleanup of these kits, and I felt that they had less overall detail than some of their metal and plastic counterparts. I will see how these resin models hold up during the painting process, but I won't hold my breath. Once I chewed my way through the resin kits, it was back to assembling plastic ones, which were mostly a breeze to work with, except for 2. Looking at you, Mephiston. Looking at you, Sergeant Ripper Jackson. I'm not going to give you a comprehensive rundown of every kit I assembled during the project, as I don't want to bore you to death, but I can tell you about a few of the kits I got the most enjoyment from working with. First off was the Black Templar Sword Brethren, due to the multiple poses and options within the kit. They're also easy to customize with existing Primaris Space Marine parts, and once you've completed building them, you're left with lots of extra bits that you can use on other miniatures. Then we had Gaunt's Ghosts. I've had these in my collection since they were released in 2021, and have been meaning to get around to building them for a while now. I had the original metal Gaunt's Ghost when I was a child, so it was awesome to see them reworked for the modern era. Though these miniatures offer virtually nothing in terms of options, they make up for it with the amount of character that each miniature has. Third and finally, there was a box of Chaos Space Marine Havocs. Initially, I was worried about assembling these due to the connecting wires and cables between the weapons and backpacks. To my surprise, they were a very straightforward kit to assemble, and I ended up enjoying the process immensely. I even managed to somewhat customize my Havocs with some different head options to fit in with a 40k Iron Warrior force that I'm working on. The next thing I pulled out from my Hive Spire of Shame was a box of Primaris Crusaders and some Black Templar upgrades. At this point in the project, I'd been doing nothing but building during my spare hobby time. I was starting to lose my patience with assembling miniatures. I finished the Crusaders from the box, and an additional Castellan for some reason. But finally, the burnout caught up with me, and I felt it was time to stop building. I feel like here is a natural point to take a break in the mission to assemble my entire backlog, so let's take a look at everything I managed to build. I actually managed to make quite the dent in the backlog, and I'd say I've assembled just under half of it now. I suppose this is the part where I should make a promise not to buy any more miniatures for the rest of the year, but I'm not going to do that. One, because there's absolutely no way I could keep that promise, and two, chances are that something's going to come out that I want to add to my collection. What I can promise is that there will be a part 2 of this video which deals with the second half of the pile of Opera Shame. I still have quite the journey left to go in the form of lots of Primaris Space Marines and no small quantity of impulse purchases. I create this video to give myself a bit of a break from some of the larger diorama projects I have, and have a bit of fun focusing on another aspect of the hobby. Even though the assembling eventually got the better of me, it was awesome to see what I could achieve in the time, and I'm sure after a short break I'll be right back to it. Hopefully this attempt at addressing my own pile of shame might inspire some of my fellow hobbyists out there to sit down and get some of their own backlog completed. Thank you for tuning in to watch this first part of a somewhat out of the norm project. The subscribe button is down below if you fancy following along with my continuing and upcoming projects. You can also stay up to date with my work over on Instagram, @Imperium Nihilus. That being said, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.